Nokia didn't lose to Apple. It lost to fear, specifically fear of its own leadership. Back in 2007, Nokia wasn't just big, it was untouchable. The company held around 40% of the global mobile phone market, far more than any competitor. They weren't just leading the industry, they were the industry. When Apple announced the first iPhone, most of the tech world shrugged. Even inside Nokia, the mood wasn't panic. People believed Nokia was too far ahead to be threatened. And that belief wasn't entirely wrong. Nokia's engineers had already developed touchscreen prototypes long before the iPhone hit the stage. They had early versions of an app store. They had research teams working on mobile internet experiences. In many ways, they were ahead of the curve. But technology wasn't Nokia's real problem. Culture was. Inside the company, a silent crisis was growing. Engineers, managers, even entire divisions were becoming afraid to speak honestly. They feared the reactions of senior leadership, especially the CEO. So instead of raising problems, they hid them. Instead of reporting delays, they claimed deadlines were met. Instead of saying, "This isn't working," they said, "Everything is on track." What replaced innovation was fear. What replaced honest conversations were filtered reports. And what replaced bold leadership was a corporate culture where people were rewarded for telling the boss what he wanted to hear. Researchers later interviewed Nokia employees during and after its decline. Over and over again, they heard the same story. People inside the company knew the smartphone strategy wasn't working. They knew Symbian couldn't compete with iOS or Android. They knew the organization was moving too slowly. They knew the internal politics were suffocating ideas. But almost nobody said it out loud. And when leaders don't hear the truth, they can't make the right decisions. Nokia didn't fall behind because it lacked capability. It fell because the people who had the answers felt unsafe to speak. By 2013, the consequences were irreversible. Nokia's phone division, once valued at more than $250 billion at its peak, was sold to Microsoft for $7.2 billion, a fraction of its former worth. 2 years later, Microsoft wrote off almost the entire investment, essentially admitting the acquisition had failed. Think about that. A global giant, dominating for years, erased in under a decade. Nokia had the technology, it had the talent, it had the market. What it didn't have was a culture where people could tell the truth. And in the end, that's what actually killed it. This is Why the Brands. See you in the next one.